Hello and welcome to another edition of Issue. Today, we will talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, it's a global disgrace as police arraign underage boys over hunger protests. In the course of the program, we take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. It's important to also mention that we can only read comments with human names and the ones based on the subject matter. I have joining me via Zoom the master himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Good to see you again, BKO, this evening.
Good to see you. Good to do this with you. And we apologize to our viewers for starting late again. Hopefully, one day this will come to an end.
Right. So let's get right into the matter. Nigerians have expressed outrage over the arraignment of 76 suspects, including some referred to as minors, before Justice Obiora Igwaltu at the Abuja division of the Federal High Court for participating in the hashtag End Bad Governance protest in August. What was your initial reaction to these, Bikil?
My reaction was that of utter shame on behalf of our country. As a Nigerian, I was really ashamed that we allowed this to happen. Ideally,
Hello, Bikil, are you there? Bikil, can you hear me? Are you there, Bikil? All right. While we await BKO, because it's a serious battle with the network situation in the country. As you know, it's a YouTube program, and then we definitely always have to make use of the internet to have this connection. We connect with BKO wherever he is, and then we have this conversation. But in the meantime, drop your questions, your comments as well. So we'll read your comments, and even some of those questions will be read out to BKO for his reaction and some of the things that you think about the current situation in the country, especially with this issue of the police arraigning underage boys over hunger protests. BKO is back. We lost you momentarily. BKO, carry on from where you left off.
well, I'm just kind of confused by what is going on today.
Right, carry on. We could hear you.
The point that was that those people are not talking about the fact that business premises were looted. I've read comments by Ezekwesili and so many people. They are all saying, "Oh, these children protested." Even the reaction of Amnesty International was talking about those children that were involved in lawful protests against misrule by our leaders and all that. They are not talking about the fact that in Kano, business premises were looted, the protests got violent in different places. I am for people protesting against misrule and hunger in our land because no person with his sanity in place would argue that Nigerians will say that Nigerians are not going through a lot at this time. People are finding it's difficult to get on with their lives. But we must remember that young people trooped out on the streets of Kano, on the streets of Gombe, and they were looting. Some of them even looted worship places. Mosque was looted in Kano and the rugs in the church carted away. We cannot continue to hide the fact that certain things happen that shouldn't have happened. We cannot deny the fact that if not for the efforts of our armed forces, those protests would have led to complete breakdown of law and order. They were very responsible in the way they handled the protests. They were being provoked, but they handled the protests well. And the other angle to the protest was the sheepish parade of Russian flags. Were they saying that that Russia should come and colonize Nigeria or what? So many nonsensical things happened, and that was why I called the protests in Kano and many of the northern communities Zanga Zanga Nasata. That is protests designed for people to steal. So that is one thing. But for the police to bring those boys to court in such a terrible state, that is the shame that they brought on Nigeria. These guys were malnourished. They were looking like people who were starving. But the police have told us that the whole scenario was staged. Maybe it was staged because this same set of boys, along with adults, had been arraigned previously. That was not their first day in court. They had appeared in court earlier. So, but this drama that we saw, this week, did not happen at that time. It could be that, yes, they have been in detention since August the 3rd. That's enough time for things to get really bad with some of them in terms of their health. But what the police is telling us is that these things were arranged. And I wonder even the kind of lawyers representing these young people, because they did not bring up the fact that those guys were minors before the court. Yes, what the law says is that you cannot arraign a minor, you cannot take a minor's plea in public, before a court. But in this case, they were arraigned along with adults. So when they are arraigned along with adults, the judge has not done anything wrong in reading out the charge against them. If they were all minors and they were brought to court, it would have been wrong to take their plea publicly as minors. But where they are brought to court along with adults, then they can be arraigned together with those adults. That's what the law says. Again, we have to look at the charge. These boys have been charged with committing treason. Treasonable offenses are too serious to take before the juvenile court. Juvenile courts do not try matters that have to do with treason. So perhaps because of the nature of the charges against them, the judge decided to take their plea publicly. And those lawyers did not address any of these issues that are in the public space today. So if a minor is charged alone for a criminal offense, you do not take his plea in open court. Instead, you refer him to a juvenile court. But in this case, as I said earlier, they were charged along with adults. So what the law says is that you can take their plea together. Now, to also show you just how incompetent the lawyers handling these matters are, the issue of the very difficult bail conditions uh, that the court sets should have been addressed by the lawyers. For example, the court demanded for 10 million as bail and a level 15 officer in the civil service. That means each of those defendants must come forward with 10 million, 10 million naira for his bail and must secure two sureties. One of the two sureties must be a civil servant of at least level 15 with a verifiable address within the court's jurisdiction, and the other a parent of the accused persons. You can see that these bail conditions are very, very tough. But again, the incompetent lawyers didn't bring up this case before Justice Eguatu. One would have expected that they will bring this up, draw the attention of the judge to the fact that these bail conditions are too steep. Rather than go to the media, go to the public space to make so much noise, where a judge comes out with very tough bail conditions, you can apply, you can file an application before the same court asking him to vary his bail conditions, and the judge can actually listen to you and vary the bail conditions. It's not everything that you take before you take to the public space, seeking to reap political dividends.
That's right.
I was reading the comments of Kwankwaso, the big man of Kano politics, where I was saying that, well, government should do its best to defeat banditry rather than putting kids behind bars. Well, again, when we go back to time has a way of blotting out some oddities. If we go back to what happened that time, especially in Kano, innocent people who are not in government, their business premises were looted to the ground by boys who were simply using the opportunity of the protest to loot. And I said at that time that the kind of protest that the organizers wanted, where people will be free to parade the streets, rather than get localized in a particular location and draw the attention of government, will lead to breakdown of anarchy. But we are in Nigeria where people without a sense of history always come out to say, no, this is what is right. That is not what is right. I was reading the comment of presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, saying that some of the people in government today were people who had used the instrumentality of protest, you know, to get the government of the day when they were in the opposition to know that what they were doing was wrong. Again, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he protested against removal of subsidy, that protest was localized to Ojota, the park there in Ojota. They did not take the protest through the streets of Nigeria. People must remember that. And they were not burning houses, they were not stealing people's property. So when you want to use an example, if you are not just a political opportunist, you must reckon with the fact that certain analogies, you cannot draw certain analogies, you know, in trying to condemn what has happened. The shame for our country is not simply in putting people on trial. The shame was the terrible state in which those boys were. You know, the police can say, oh, those things were staged, those boys deliberately made it look like they were in a bad state. But looking at them, some of them were clearly malnourished. It is clear that they had not been properly taken care of. And that is why I was happy to read that the Minister of Youth Development has said that they are going to interface with the correctional services to see how they can take good care of those children and improve their outlook before the next appearance in courts. So the horrific and tragic manner in which those children appeared is what puts Nigeria to shame.
That's right, Mikhail.
The police should be more careful next time. Saying anybody above 7 years can be charged to court is ridiculous. A person who is 7 years, you can't be talking. A 7-year-old person or 8-year-old person is a minor. You cannot say that a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old person can be charged to court. Even if you take him to a juvenile court, you cannot take his plea. The plea of an underage person, you cannot take it in public. That is what the law says. And the police should be guided. All of these things are embarrassing the government, putting the government to shame, and giving the impression that it is a broader erosion of justice when you put these kind of people to when you put them when you bring them to in such a bad state. And again,
that's right.
Where do you then detain them? You also cannot detain them in public in prisons like Kuje and other places. You cannot lock up minors with adults. Prisons meant for adults are not prisons where you put minors. So again, they have to be guided. They have to be guided. They must find a detention facility to put them, rather than take them to the regular prisons. Those regular prisons are meant for adults. Those children cannot cope in such prisons. So if there was a plan to take them to Kuje or elsewhere, because I know that those children didn't meet their bail conditions. So, say, Ibrahim, I always want to see examples made of people. The governor of Borno State was so angry that it is the Almajiris, the itinerant children who had been abandoned, left to suffer on the streets, that caused the destruction that happened in Maiduguri. And he's saying now, we governors in northern Nigeria should be able to come together and find the solution to this Almajiri syndrome, because it doesn't speak well for that part of the country. And that's the part of the country where I come from. I always say that nobody can say it's more northern than me. I was born in Zaria, raised in the north, all my schooling in the north, my youth service in the north, and I'm from the north, from the geographical entity called Northern Nigeria. So the interest of the north, I'm as interested in it as you are. The only difference is that I take the fidelity of the truth much more seriously than you.
That's right.
So
that's right, Mikhail.
Those are the people destroying things during the protests. We had protests in Lagos too. How many houses were attacked? How many business premises were looted in Lagos? How many of the people arrested were from Lagos? But you cannot watch people looting business premises and say that it was wrong to arrest them. It was right to arrest them. It was right to detain them. But it was wrong to leave them in such a bad state and bring them to court, because it has now given the enemies of our country and other people the opportunity to look at Nigeria as a country where human rights are routinely violated. And many of them do not actually know what those boys did. They believe that they were part of a peaceful protest. No, they were not part of a peaceful protest. They were looting all over the place. Even very dark man who came out to complain about the state in which he found those boys, he was one of those who came out to say this protest was not necessary. I still have that video
That's right. Okay.
because of
Let,
the protest turned out.
right.
I'm
Let
sure
me
you are
take some.
surprised to see me wearing an Arsenal jersey. So
Yeah,
that
somebody
is
actually
uh,
somebody actually
yes.
said that. Well, I'll read the comment. Let me just take one or two comments,
I
or just some
I have
comments.
ported. I have ported. That is the truth. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Whether you sack Ten
Well,
Hag or not. I've left Arsenal. I've left Manchester United for Arsenal.
okay, it means that you've probably seen the comment though. Kayla Charity says Peter Obi would have ensured these minors are in school and not locked up in prison for 3 months. Well, anyone can see that as long as the other person is not in power. Promise Emmanuel says,
It's an
BKO, good evening,
hypothetical
sir. Hypothetical
statement.
statement. Promise says, BKO, good evening, sir. It's good to see you on Arsenal
Hmm.
Jesse. I guess probably you saw that comment for you to have reacted. Nelson Adefe says, we
No,
agree
I didn't
that
see it.
these students are misled. Oh, okay. He said it at the beginning of the program. We agree that these students were misled against the law and they did commit treason and destroy the properties of Nigerians. What my concern is they should have been judged in or tried, he meant to say, in the juvenile court and not kept to and not be dehumanized. Kayla also says Babajide, Tinubu and Buhari protested on the streets of Abuja in 2014. They marched to INEC office. And Nelson also says, I'm not in support of their evil deeds, but they should not be kept in adult correctional center as adult criminal. The police that said even a 7-year-old can be detained should be called to order. Let me also look at some of the comments that are just dropping. Um, Okay. There are some that are actually just throwing invectives, but we'll rather you stay on the matter, just go straight to the point. Everyone is expressing their opinion. Feel free to express your opinion or opinions without having to, attack, BKO's opinion. Just say what you think instead. BKO, how significant is the criticism that these minors should have been arraigned in family courts rather than in federal high courts? I think you said that. Do you also believe that the judge's decision to grant bail with strict conditions, that is, requiring a civil servant as a surety, is fair given the socioeconomic status of the defendants?
Because these offenses, when you look at let me try and read out, they were accused of terrorism, arson, treasonable felony, destruction of public property, threat to national security. If you charge someone with committing all of these offenses, then you should expect that the bail conditions will be tough because they know that anybody facing this kind of charges is not likely to show up in court. He will run away because you know that even one of these is enough. One of these is enough to put you, and some of what they are talking about here, treasonable felony is is very very big, something like a capital, an offense um, that carries capital punishment. So normally the the conditions will be tough, and don't forget there were adults with them. So with those adults with them, they charge them together, and the conditions are the same. So, but I agree that those conditions are very stiff. And I'm saying that if the lawyers are competent, they should have drawn the attention of the judge to it. I've seen where a judge came up with very tough bail conditions, and the lawyers uh, appealed to him to vary the conditions, and eventually varied the conditions and made the conditions less stiff, than the earlier bail conditions. So the law permits them to demand for a variation of the bail conditions, and the judge will gladly look at it. It's Shameful to see children in that state brought to court. But the law, as I said earlier, permits the judge to take their plea along with the plea of adults. What you cannot do is to bring minors alone to the court like this and take their plea publicly. You know, you cannot do that.
That's right.
If an adult rapes a minor, for example, you cannot take the evidence of that minor, publicly, because it's a minor. That's the thing. Some of the people who are probably angry fail to realize that we are saying the same thing. One, we cannot encourage people to set buildings ablaze. If your own building was set ablaze, maybe you are a trader, you have your shop in Alaba market, and people came to burn it.
Yeah.
We do not want justice. We do not want justice. So, but when it does not affect you, you then think that it is wrong to put people on trial for setting ablaze people's business premises. They not only looted business premises, they set some of those business premises ablaze. What is the offense of the owners of the business premises? Because it's not government buildings alone that they went after.
That's right. That's right.
In fact, if not for the vigilance of the police along Zoo Road in Kano, they will have looted all of the shops along Zoo Road in Kano. And you know what that means?
Right, BKO, because of our time, I want us to just wrap up because of the time that we have. We have just very limited time. Well, Taiwo Ladi says, BKO, Ukwerem Esang said, these children are playing the scripts they asked to play. And then Taiwo Ladi says, BKO, you will still come to Chelsea last. But we just must wrap. How do you
why? No. Why now? So you are saying that I've become a prostitute who lifts his skirt anyhow. No. I'm happy to be in Arsenal. You know, Arsenal has, if you check all the clubs and supporters in Nigeria, Arsenal has far more beautiful women than other teams. Arsenal supporters, Arsenal supporters, they have far more beautiful women than other teams.
Yeah.
You won't argue. Yeah. You won't argue that.
All right, let's leave that to another time because of our time. I wish we could extend this conversation, but I hope by next edition, because of our viewers who are also clamoring for 1 hour and all of that, we're working round the clock to ensure that we'll be able to do some of these things. But then take us as we are today. That's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide, Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses as always. BKO.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you to viewers. We'll continue to monitor what happens with this trial.
That's right.
Hopefully, with the Attorney General taking over the file from the police, hopefully sanity will be restored. I doubt if the Attorney General will have allowed this sort of nonsense to happen. So I'm happy that the Attorney General has called for the file, is going to take over the matter. And this sort of arraignment of malnourished, underfed children will not happen again.
Absolutely. This conversation continues on Journalist Hangouts tomorrow, next tomorrow, and in the course of the week. Thanks to our audience for keeping our company on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim_Shita. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now. Ugh.